Get started.
Okay, get my windows in the right place here. Um, our titles are being read tonight by Amy Levine. Thank you, Amy, for volunteering. And our judge is Becky Jaffe. Now, this is the second time. It's been about a year since Becky judged her last time. The feedback on Becky was amazing. It was probably the most positive feedback I've seen for a judge.
Very
So I'll just
kind.
say that.
Appreciate
It
that.
was a great evening. We have 59 images, no, 59 entries. I guess we have no multiple image entries tonight, so 59 images as well. We'll start off with critique feedback, then go to the new category framed, and then nature, and then take a break, and then we'll finish up with pictorial and travel. So with that, I'll
Let's
share
get
my
into it.
screen.
See what we can learn from each other tonight.
Mhm.
Critique feedback, all levels, 6 images. To you, Becky.
Good. Okay. That is a striking and dramatic image for sure. Um, I think many photographers would be envious of this image and want to try their hand at it themselves. This is technically challenging. I'm I wonder if the person had equipment that would allow the lightning strike itself to trigger the shutter, which may explain how this image was created. It's very technically difficult to do this. So I just want to appreciate and respect the technical prowess here. They made it look easy, but it's not easy. So there's the lightning bolt itself. There's those epic clouds. You know, the lightning bolt itself would have been sufficient. Those epic clouds are doing their part and playing their supporting role beautifully. And then there's that gorgeous distributed light all over what I think is a harvested cornfield with stubble, maybe. Regardless of what that is, it really makes me think about all of the elemental factors that go into producing our food that we take for granted, whether that's clouds, sun, wind, rain, all of those things. The whole biosphere is conspiring to feed us. And I think this image shows us the wonder of that biosphere. Next.
Desolate. Susilvlay, Namibia.
Interesting. You sort of can't tell the scale here. Initially I read these as fairly small, but now that I know the location that we're in Namibia, I have a sense that this is a much larger scale. Um, and that the viewpoint is maybe from up on high, making it look miniature. Um, so I think what's working here is the texture. There is a ton of texture coming from the sand here. It gives us that parched, arid, dry, cracked feel. So we really get the feel of the desert through that texture. The black and white choice is interesting. I mean, often when you see photos of Namibia, it's that rust oxide color. This is black and white, which typically we use to emphasize structure. And I think the structure is emphasized here, and you basically have a rule of thirds, which is created on the vertical and the diagonal from the shadows. So that's a nice use of structural elements. Um, so I think the structure and the texture together are making this work. Um, is there anything else to note here? I think we'll stop there and just appreciate this uh, striking scene. Next.
Sea serpent at sunrise.
What I think is working here is the personification of the sea serpent. Because of the angle of the camera, we are, and the position of the head of the serpent, we are invited to kind of occupy the mind of that serpent and animate it. And we kind of imagine that serpent seeing the sunrise and how the serpent feels about that. So I think that's an interesting move. Anytime you can kind of inhabit another mind, real or imaginary, that's going to draw us in. Um, and of course, those rays coming from the sun are spectacular. And I think the serpent is impressed with this sunrise. There's whimsy here too. There's kind of this, there's two emotions here, at least. There's kind of a calm, contemplative sense of wonder, but there's also whimsy and humor. And that partly comes from the shape of the serpent's head, which has these like pointed mustachioed, whimsical shapes. So I think when you can combine two or more emotions together, like one kind of calm, contemplative with one more humorous one, I think that that works rather than just one emotional note. Next.
Scale-throated hermit drinking from a scarlet banana flower.
Beautiful. Um, Yeah, how exciting. I mean, this person has basically achieved the standard for hummingbird photography, which is very strict and specific. There are basically two things you have to do in hummingbird photography. You have to freeze the motion of the wings, although I think the ones with blurred wings are perfectly beautiful. But in order to like get published in Audubon magazine, they want the wings to be frozen as they are here. And they want there to be a catch light in the eye. And both of those things have been achieved technically here. Um, so it's certainly a publishable image. It's also just an incredible image. I mean, what an amazing thing that something that weighs half an ounce can travel 3,000 miles and suck the nectar out of every plant on the way. Um, that's astonishing. And this person, I think, is really conveying that wonder, partly with their color palette. I love the cool colors in the background moving back into space and the warm color really moving toward us and taking center stage here. So um, this person is passing wonder on to us as if they were just throwing beads at a Mardi Gras parade. So thank you for that. Last thing I'll say on this, that focal point of the drop on the right side, it's like it's a resting place for the eye. Your eye can move all around here and then land on that drop. So there's actually it's a very carefully composed composition. And I appreciate that. Next.
Baby twister.
Just a tiny little tornado. Um, yeah, we don't really have yeah, twisters are scary. So it's funny to see the phrase baby twister. And sure enough, it is kind of small compared to the rest of the scale here. How dramatic, good Lord. I'm counting the number of layers from bottom to top. You sort of have two green layers, a foliage layer, a gold layer, five, six. You sort of have seven layers here. And that's impressive. That's one of the core skills in creating a photographic composition is being able to layer from bottom to top and front to back. And this person can really do that. And they're layering with texture and color and creating these very distinct bands that are really beautiful. So I like the composition. Um, and even some of the texture in the cloud mirrors some of the texture in the foliage. So that's really working here. I would say everything is working here. Even look at the size of those silos. We know those are large, and check out the scale there. That's no baby tornado. So a very impressive image. This person is a storm chaser, and I want to encourage you to chase more storms. Um, thank you for sharing this epic view.
Here comes the sun.
Hmm. Interesting. I think we've seen a lot of photographs of vineyards, but this is an original view. This is not the standard view of vineyards. Um, It's really more in the realm of German expressionism, actually. It's about the feeling for the vineyards, not the documentation of the fact of the vineyards. And feeling is maybe more important than fact. Um, so this person is really quite expressive in how they're experiencing this place. This is maybe even a drunken view of the vineyards, which is appropriate. Um, there's a freeness here. This is not a buttoned up, uptight view of vineyards, which it's easy to do because they're so linear. But this is a non-linear, unbuttoned view of the vineyards in all their glory. So I appreciate the very kind of much more expressive tone and approach here. Next.
Framed, advanced and masters, 7 images. The city framed and reflected.
I really love this category. I mean, we are interested in framing. Framing matters to us, and this is beautifully framed. What I'm enjoying about this is that each rectangle is essentially a painting unto itself. And I kind of want to linger in each one. Each one has elements that are representational that I can parse in a kind of concrete, literal way. But they also have abstract elements from the distortion of the glass, and that creates a more impressionist feel. And I think whenever you can combine realism with impressionism, that's a winning strategy. We want a point and a counterpoint, something we can recognize, something we have to meet halfway in order to make sense of it. We kind of want realism and mystery, right? Which is what the impressionism is doing here. But the other thing I'm appreciating about this is that it's not just straight rectangles. The rectangles are broken into additional rectangles because of the reflection. And so actually, there's paintings within paintings within paintings. And then I personally love a triangle well placed. When you have a lot of rectilinear elements, you kind of need to cut them with diagonals, and a triangle well placed will provide that. It'll create that dynamic energy that breaks through the stasis of too many verticals and horizontals. So the diagonals here are doing some heavy lifting, and the triangles, if you look at the triangles and how many there are here, they're actually very well positioned to create a very dynamic, jazzy kind of Euclidean geometry that's just beautiful. Um, so yeah, very well done. Next.
Rapid transit.
Yeah, I mean, um, again, this is about the feeling of being on the train as opposed to the fact of being on the train. And I think that's more interesting because being on the train, we do get lulled into this kind of reverie state. It's a good place to write poetry or music or just, be dreamy. Um, and it's not as fast paced and it's not a to-do list, right? It's kind of a shortcut to floating mentally. So this really captures that inner state of what a train creates. I really like that. I think the only thing that's not working for me here is the hat. The hat seems kind of arbitrary. Like, why do we need that hat? What is the hat adding to the story? Is it telling me something about the person riding the train? Is it incidental? I don't really understand why the hat's in the picture. And I think everything in the picture should be contributing to the meaning, the mood, and the story of the picture. So the hat, I'm a little unclear on, but I certainly appreciate the feeling of this. Next.
Setting moon through the turret rock, Arches National Monument.
Well, it's certainly well framed. Um, yeah, how beautiful. Um, I think in terms of the placement of the moon, it's spot on. I did wonder whether that was actually a photograph that the photographer took or whether that was sort of photoshopped into this space. Does it matter? That's a question we could debate. Um, it may not matter. So I do appreciate the placement. I kind of hope it was two photographs that taken by the same person or one photograph with the right timing. Um, but then as I'm looking around the frame, I love all the texture in the rock face there. I think what I'm questioning is, has it been manipulated in so that it's like cartoon or there's something that's kind of non-photographic about the texture of the rock. And I think it's maybe slightly overdone and becoming a little cartoony. I think I would pull back on that and maybe show some of the more concrete details in the rock face. So that's my one criticism of this. But otherwise, I think it's beautifully framed. Next.
The sign of the cool kid.
What a cutie pie. Okay, there are several things that are working here. Certainly, that is a framed face. But also look at all the yellow here. I mean, how perfect is it that this child is wearing a yellow shirt and is standing against a yellow railing, and that the figures on the upper left and upper right are also wearing yellow. I guess this is a school uniform, and a school that's painted accordingly, but it just took some noticing to basically this person is using yellow in a way that we can kind of hopscotch our gaze throughout the frame and keep returning to this child. So you might meander, and notice these other yellows and the playful background in which he's existing, but then you keep coming back to him and this charming expression he has. Um, I love that he is present for this. Often when, I judge for about 20 camera clubs, and I would say that the camera clubs in general are great at things like flowers, rocks, skies, not so great at people. And I think that's because we're kind of shy. So this is actually an exception to that rule. I would say this is what's working here is the presence and the connection between the photographer and the child, which allows us as viewers in. So a nice example of a well done portrait. Next.
Frames of reference.
Mhm. Okay. I think what's working here is the alternating patterns between almost like a black and white palette, which it's a grayscale, and a color palette. That banding is interesting, and especially that particular value of blue is quite electric. What's not working as well for me here is the tilt. Um, I think if you're going to tilt it, there has to be some reason why it's tilted. Like the form has to convey meaning. So if it's tilted, there's something off kilter. And what is that that's off kilter? What is askew? I don't know what part of this story is meant to be interpreted askew. So that makes me think that actually it should have been corrected and made more vertical. Um, if you want it to be Escher-esque, go there further. But I think a tilt without a reason for the tilt and not fully Escher level is kind of just disorienting. So that's a question in my mind is should it have been straightened out? You can do, rectilinear justification to straighten it out. Or really lean into the tilt and distort it completely, one or the other. But I think the color banding and the pattern part is working. Next.
Rooftop view.
Okay. So one thing that's interesting about this is that you sort of don't know initially where you're standing. The title gives it away, but I mean, to a certain extent. But if I didn't see that title, I might be wondering, like, am I looking out? Am I looking down? Am I looking up? You can quickly figure out you're looking up. But that initial disorientation is useful because I never want an image to be too obvious to a viewer. You want to do something that allows the viewer to come toward you, and confusion does that. So I think this is a healthy dose of confusion that allows the viewer to enter the image without kind of insulting their intelligence. It invites them in and respects their intelligence. So that's good. Um, I love the blues, the range of blues, and I love the verticals crossed by the diagonals. I think all of that is working. My only question about this is there a clear focal point? The center point might be the focal point, but I feel like this actually there's a lot of kind of repetition of line and color, and it's kind of static in some sense. It might need a focal point that breaks that stasis, right? Like a red bird flying across the scene, which is not linear at all. Something that is kind of a non-linear element to break up all that linearity. So that's a proposal for you. All right, next.
Coit Tower reflected by the Transamerica Pyramid, San Francisco.
That's well framed. It's an implied triangle. One, two, three, four, five. It's actually a pentagon. Um, we love a pentagon. There are also explicit triangles here. The lower left has a triangle kind of locking this down, wedging the shapes in on the left, and blocking the eye from leaving on the left. And that triangle on the left kind of echoes the one in the middle. We've got, ooh, one, two, three, four. Oh, there's actually quite a number of beautiful shapes in here. So I do appreciate all this subtle embedded geometry. Um, and I think it's just a vantage point on Coit Tower that I've not seen before. So there is originality here. We've seen a lot of Coit Tower, but not necessarily this view. So well done, well framed. Next.
Nature, basic and intermediate, 4 images. Mating season. And this pair of red-shouldered hawks take a break from coupling while keeping a sharp lookout for prey.
How beautiful. I mean, we would have been satisfied if there were only one hawk, right, on this incredibly beautiful branch. Um, but two hawks that are in sync. That's beautiful. What a rare treat. Um, you can see their focus. I dare say you can see their intelligence. Um, this is a formidable animal. And the fact that we are looking up at them heightens that sense of how formidable they are. Um, they're not looking at us, but there is a catchlight in the eye, and we can see their intensity and their, yeah, just how impressive they are as beasts that we get to share the planet with. Um, so just a gorgeous image. I'll note that the rule of thirds is being applied on a diagonal here, basically. Do you see that? And that breaks up the frame really well, makes it less chaotic, more navigable. And these two are positioned perfectly within that diagonal rule of thirds. So beautifully done. Next.
Great blue heron.
Yes, indeed. What a beauty. Um, I love the smoothness of the water. You know, it almost disappears. It's like a cloud. And that gentle ripple. Um, as I'm saying it, I'm questioning it. You know, it is a gentle ripple from our vantage point. But of course, what is this heron doing? It's shaking its little toes in the mud and creating a little stir of mud and using its toes as lure to draw little fish in who might be confused, thinking that's something edible. And then in that cloud of mud, it's going to stab it with its beak from the sky, and that will be the end of that little fish. So, from the fish's perspective, this probably does not look like a gentle little stir. From the human perspective, it does. This is heaven from above the water and hell from below the water. Um, but certainly from our vantage point, quite heavily. And that open beak, that's sort of like, you know, the equivalent of the decisive moment in terms of Cartier-Bresson, right? Um, it's poised to strike. And so there is here this tension between potential energy, the calmness that is currently happening, and the kinetic energy, the strike we know that is about to happen. And that balancing point between potential and kinetic energy is the point and the counterpoint here that gives this feeling. The only thing I would suggest is it does need to be a little sharper. Bird photography is super uptight in this regard. And you can do with that what you will, like ignore it, you know, go the impressionist route, like that's up to you. But just be aware, like bird photography is super uptight about how sharp, tack sharp it needs to be. So I would say maybe the resolution could come up here a little bit, especially on the cording feathers on the chest, but otherwise quite serene and beautiful. Next.
Monarch at the super bloom.
Yes, so isn't that lovely? The the color pairing works, like that particular orange against that particular purple is a really nice color pairing. Um, I'm questioning why the wing is cut off. Typically, we don't cut off wings unless, well, I'm not sure why the wing might be cut off. That's sort of like cutting off hands and feet for humans. People aren't crazy about that. It could be used artistically. I wonder what the thinking was there. There's probably a reason for that. But I would say the major issue here is the kind of the pixelation. I think this resolution is getting a little muddied, and maybe that's because it's a digital macro. I think if this had been, I'm guessing this is a digital macro, so the pixels are kind of blown up, and it's a little there's a little low resolution. Like if this were a prime lens, I think we'd be seeing the hairs on the back of that butterfly's body. So I think it's a strong image for color and understanding the relationship between a pollinator and its host species. But I think as far as the resolution goes, it could come up a little. Next.
A wild cheetah, colored by biologists, sits up after making a kill. Mosefla Bush Camp, South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like this cheetah was caught off guard, like surprised, and suddenly registered the photographer, which is a striking moment with its mouth half open there, like, what? It's almost like a dumb look for humans, but charming on a cheetah. Um, there definitely is a soft catch light in both eyes. We, as predators, we have forward-facing eyes. If we were prey animals, we would have eyes on the side. We tend to relate emotionally to animals with forward-facing eyes, and the more so with animals with round forward-facing eyes, because those are the ones that do carry catch lights like us. So we're going to automatically emotionally connect with a round-eyed predator like this. And so we do. What a gorgeous creature. Um, yeah, I love the direct eye contact. I love being at the animal's level rather than looking down on them in the human world. I love the soft focus in the background and just the striking nature of this, getting to see this animal at all. Such a secretive animal. So really well done. Even the detail on the fur on the back of the neck is clear. We can really capture the detail here. Even the blood on the face. There's a lot of detail here. It's beautifully done. Next.
Nature, advanced, 5 images. A neotropic cormorant on Brazil's São Lourenço River tosses a long whiskered catfish into position for a tasty meal.
That's amazing. I mean, truly amazing. Um, an astonishing image. It could be on the cover of an ecology textbook. Um, it could be published in a fine art magazine. I mean, it's really this incredible moment where predator meets prey. I mean, we're interested in that, right? How is it that all life exists at the expense of other life? That is a philosophical conundrum for us, and this is illustrating that in an awesome and terrible way. It's awesome for the cormorant and terrible for the fish, obviously. Um, but the horror of this moment for the fish is actually softened by that curly catfish whisker and the shape it makes. There's something elegant about that that kind of belies this moment of death. This is somehow sublime and grotesque at the same time. And if you can get that point and counterpoint, the sublime and the grotesque together, that's a powerful image. And so this is. Everything is working here, from the drops coming off of the fish on the back end to the eye of the fish, which seems to does it know what's coming? To the eagerness of the cormorant. I mean, this is just incredible. A truly phenomenal image. Yeah, wow. Next.
There are 552 species of swallowtail butterflies in the world, with 40 in North America. Very similar to the Western tiger swallowtail, the anise swallowtail has more black than yellow coloring.
I think there are several things working here. One is, it looks to me like flash has been used in the foreground. And so there's like one quality of lighting in the foreground and a different quality of lighting in the background, which is much more subdued and calm. So I think there's a lighting contrast here that's working in terms of like the lighting in the front, which I think is flash. It's bringing out all that scientific detail we want to see in the animal and the host plant. Um, Whereas the lighting in the back is giving us feeling, that sort of calm, contemplative, quiet feeling of taking the time to observe pollination in effect. Um, and then there's a similar contrast. The foreground has all this hyper resolution. We can even make out some of the detail in the scales. We can make out the detail in the proboscis. There's even a catch light on the legs. Um, but in the background, you have this soft, dreamy kind of soft focus. You get the sense of a depth of feeling that's very painterly behind this scientific foreground. So that pairing of like scientific realism with dreamy impressionism in the background, that's a winning pairing. Um, so just beautifully done. I love it. And I think that even that leaf in the midground there is connecting or stitching together the foreground with the background. Next.
Short-billed dowitchers feed in open mud flats during falling and rising tides when only a few inches of water cover the bottom.
Yeah, I love this image for several reasons. One is we're voyeurs, right? All photographers are voyeurs. So this fringe in the foreground gives me the sense that like I'm lurking in the reeds and the little you know the dowitchers don't know I'm there, and I'm getting to have the pleasure of unseen voyeurism, which you kind of have to do with birds anyway. So I love that little fringe that of secrecy in the foreground that kind of places us in this marsh. And I like that the reflection of the fringe is meeting it. So you have this fringe reaching up in the bottom of the frame and a fringe reaching down. And there's really, they're like hands trying to reach out to each other and touch these beautiful dowagers. Um, these are extraordinary animals and they're social species like us. So I like to see that their body positions are kind of positioned in a way that they can watch out for coyotes collectively. Um, Wonderful to see. Yeah, there's nothing I would change in this image. That's just beautiful to look at. Next.
Harvesting in harmony. A yellow-faced American West Coast native bumblebee harvests pollen above a tiny mason bee on a zinnia flower.
Now that's a case where the caption is actually helping me see what I'm looking at. Um, I don't know that I would have registered the tiny mason bee fully without that description. So very helpful description. Um, I was so dazzled by the hair on the bumblebee, and all the detail on the bumblebee. You can see the pollen on the legs. You can see the detail in the wing structure, the veins, and all that relatable fur. It's practically mammalian, this creature. Um, there's even a rim light on the antenna, which is hard to pull off. And there's a catch light in the eye, which is obviously different from our eyes because they have compound eyes, not simple lenses like us. But still, there's the illusion of a catch light in the eye. And then the iridescence on that, the smaller insect is really interesting. So this is it's technically very well achieved. And we're even getting detail on the pollen bearing structures. Um, so boy, that is tack sharp. I would submit that to Bay Nature magazine or the Entomological Society of America, which does a couple of photography exhibits a year. This would be one for them for sure. I think the scale is surprising. The difference in scale is really interesting and surprising. So one species would have been interesting enough here, but two is even better. Next.
Sandhill cranes flock together in large numbers in open wetlands and fields. For safety, nights are spent resting on a body of water, and at sunrise, they fly off in mass to feed in the fields.
I mean, good God. Um, let's start with the light. We all speak a language of light together silently, and we say a lot with it. This light you can practically hear. It's like, oh, like all the angels are singing, you know. This is this is like religious light, basically, holy light. Um, it's saying the earth is holy, basically. This is like a spiritual image, and we know that from the light. But if you said that out loud, the earth is holy, people will think you're cheesy and sentimental. So we don't say that out loud on a Wednesday when people are annoyed with parking. We say it in this image in a way that gets us at the gut level. And this image is really, it's speaking to us in a really existential way about the profound miracle of even being here and getting to have eyes to look at this and to be at Bird Church. So I appreciate the Bird Church sermon here. There's also this particular focal point. Look at that bird who is basically being beamed up UFO style or levitating here, right? There is something about that particular bird that is just perfect there. Um, it's gorgeous. And then, I actually don't see that many sandhill cranes in this image. I know this is where the sandhill cranes gather, and I know they're fascinating. I'm personally obsessed with them because they're the oldest living bird species on the planet, possibly 9 million years old, very advanced, with a whole language. Somebody wrote a dictionary for the sandhill bird dance language. So, I mean, that's an impressive animal if somebody's writing a dictionary on your language. You probably want to look that up. But these are not, I'm not really seeing cranes here. I'm seeing lots of other species, a lot of Canada geese and ducks. Regardless, it is extraordinary to see these numbers of birds with this lighting and to be part of a more than human experience like this. And the lighting tells us everything about the feeling here. So I'm with you at Bird Church. Hallelujah. Next.
Nature Masters, 5 images. The Galapagos sea lion of San Cristobal Island is not afraid of people and will swim up and around visitors snorkeling off the waters of Loberia Beach, Galapagos, Ecuador.
How wonderful. I mean, you can really see from the shapes that these two creatures are forming how hydrodynamic they are. They're just so well evolved with the water. Um, Boy, impressive little playful torpedoes. Um, I do like the shapes, and even, on that creature on the left, that eye, there's something just kind of, I mean, it's the big eye and the big forehead that hacks into our evolutionary wiring. I mean, that's code for like babies, right? Human babies have big eyes and big foreheads, and it gets us where we live. We must take care of them. And all the species we care about that we want to save have big eyes and big foreheads like this. And it just speaks to our wiring. So this is charming, and we want to protect and play with these creatures. Photographically, I think one thing that's working so well here is the reflection on the underside of the water. I love that section of bubbles there. That's really interesting as texture, as kind of the membrane between two worlds. It just adds a lot of visual interest, that whole top bubble layer and the curvature of it. We're still in the photic zone, so we're still getting color from that reef. If we were any deeper, we'd probably lose that color and it would gray out. But this is photographed in just the right place where the color is able to be read, and to get all that texture. That's wonderful. So yeah, a strong image. Next.
An exceptionally rare black leopard captured a dik-dik on a nighttime hunt. Melanism is a recessive gene and is almost unknown in African leopards. Kenya, Panthera pardus adacoa.
That's an incredible image. Because again, like in the cormorant and the fish image, the catfish image, this is that meeting point of the grotesque and the sublime. From the dik-dik's perspective, it's clearly quite grotesque. And we can't help but feel for it, with its mouth gaping open in horror. At the same time, we love cats, and we can't help being sympathetic with something that looks so much like a house cat, which we will spend tens of thousands of dollars a year to support. They are the most successful nest parasites, which is what biologists call cats, nest parasites. We're like, please come into my nest and parasitize me. So this creature is all the more striking for making direct eye contact with us during this moment. There is the sense that, like, is the photographer in danger? Should the photographer be here at night in this space with this kind of activity around? There's a real sense of excitement here and thrill that comes from the danger. There's a sense of visceral animal brutality that is communicated, and that is both thrilling and off-putting at the same time. And that push-pull of like, I want to go closer, I want to see more, but also I'm horrified and I don't want to see anymore. That push-pull is so compelling and keeps us looking at the image. So is the darkness here. The use of negative space is so key because we don't know what else is lurking in there. So there's mystery here, and mystery is a strong tool in the artist toolbox. So overall, just an astonishing image. Next.
Known as one of the great migrations in North America, sandhill cranes return each winter to forage for food at certain sites along the Central and Pacific flyways. Monte Vista, Colorado.
Yeah, I love this image. I mean, the cranes are amazing unto themselves, but to see each of them in a slightly different position. Well, two of them are in about the same position, but most of them are in different positions. And flying across the moon like that is quite dramatic. It reminds me of, it's like a visual haiku. So spare. There's like the thing about a haiku is there's so few words in it, but it is so evocative of so much more. And that's true here. There are very few elements in this image, but it's evocative of a lot more than what's just in this image. So um, minimal and powerful. And that's a tough combination to pull off. The other thing I'm really liking here is that there are seven cranes. I do claim, and you can test this out and see if this is true in your own visual thinking, that small prime numbers are effective in terms of creating rhythm in an image. It's just like thirds and fifths in music are harmonies. Seven, seven is more interesting than six or eight. Um, See if you think that's true as well. But yeah, it's just really working here. Next.
Zebra stripes are completely unique. Reasons for stripes are unknown, but they may confuse predators and insects. Top-down view of plain zebras in Kenya.
But I've never seen this image before. This is original. Um, and that's surprising. We've seen lots of zebra-ish images. I personally have not seen this vantage point. And I wonder, how did this person achieve this vantage point? Is it a drone photograph? Are we standing on a platform? Like zebras are notably ornery. There's a reason why they haven't been domesticated like horses because they're super curmudgeonly. So um, where are we standing and what is the danger to the photographer here from this vantage point? I'm curious. And why isn't there a shadow of the photographer here? I don't know how this was taken. I'd be curious to hear, but I'm fascinated that it was taken. And I'm fascinated by the differences in patterns. And it makes me think about fingerprints. And of course, I know how fingerprints are formed. I don't know how these shapes are formed. And it makes me want to learn about that and how bizarre and interesting. I think the other thing that's really working here, aside from the vantage point and the didactic point about zebra individualism within a collective, is the synecdoche. Synecdoche is a literary term where you reference the whole by only speaking to a part. So, like the suit walked down the street, there's a person in the suit, but the person is only referenced by the synecdoche. And same here, we know there's a head and a tail end of these zebras, but the photographer's framing really allowed us to fill that in. Is the head at the top? Is it at the bottom? They basically allowed us to step toward the image with curiosity. And that was a winning move. That's always a winning move rather than telling us the whole picture and kind of insulting our intelligence. So I really appreciate this vantage point. Next.
The male southern masked weaver begins a nest with a single blade of grass. The bird will wrap the grass into a circle, securing it to the branch with several knots. KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa.
What a beautiful image. I mean, the tree itself is beautiful with that fringe-like foliage. The color palette is beautiful. I mean, if you were a female Southern masked weaver, wouldn't you mate with this guy? He is a charming specimen. Um, and also you can tell the incredible intelligence of this animal, an animal that has figured out how to weave like us, but also to weave variable structures with an escape hatch in case snakes come in the front door, you can go out the back door. That's an incredible animal, and I think the intelligence of this animal is apparent here. and I would like them to get the credit they deserve as intelligent weavers. You can even see some of the knot work here. That's awesome. The selective focus is spot on. The translucence through the tail feathers, spot on. That red eye staring straight at us. Red, our eye will go straight to the reddest spot and the whitest spot in the image, and red is exactly where you want it to be, right on the eye. So we go straight there. That's an extraordinarily beautiful and well achieved image. Next.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break, and then
Thank you very
Oh,
much.
good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're
You
very.
had me at
Oh.
synecdoche. I haven't heard that since I was a senior in high school.
That's what we're up to here, right? Visual synecdoche. It works. We want to use all the tricks from all the art disciplines.
How do
We
you
want to make
spell that? How do you spell that? I don't know that word.
Synecdoche. It's Greek. Would you
Uh,
like me to say that again or drop it into the chat box?
right.
Say it again.
Synecdoche.
So like synchronous, something
Synchronous.
synchronous. So S
It's
Y.
like synchronous, yeah, same Greek root. And then yeah, synecdoche. So it's something to think about. Like, do you want to tell your viewer the whole story, or do you want to tell them part of the story and have them fill in the rest?
Interesting.
Your judging is like poetry.
Ah,
It
thank you.
is
Mesmerizing.
seriously like
Yes,
poetry.
it is outstanding.
Oh, I appreciate that. And okay,
From
while we're on the topic
amazing.
of poetry, um, I know that
You,
there are title rules for how you have to name your titles for these competitions. But when you are not in these competitions and you're submitting your work for galleries or publications or museums, I want to encourage you to write poetic 1 or 2 word titles that have multiple meanings and that are as evocative as the images themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Judges don't like one word titles.
Right, people say that. I know that in the camera club there's rules about sort of specificity, but I think that what we're doing with the visuals is visual poetry, and you want your words to be as poetic, and the two of them will lift each other up. The visual poetry and the verbal poetry will, there's a synergy there, and we never want to tell the viewer something they might already know. We want to draw them toward us with multiple meanings and suggestions.
on that positive note, we'll move on to pictorial.
Pictorial, basic and intermediate, 5 images. Ice plant paints the sand dunes in a kaleidoscope of color all the way to the beach's edge.
Yes, indeed. I know that we're not supposed to enjoy ice plant because it's an invasive species and there's all this ecological restoration work to tear it up. However, it is quite beautiful. Um, let's not call it an invasive species. Let's call it a party crasher. It is a gorgeous, it's a gorgeous party crasher, and what a quilted view. I love to see the variegated color, that motley quilt just blanketing the earth. It is so beautiful to see. Um, those oranges, those reds, those yellows, those greens. It's just the distribution of them is gorgeous. And then, leading out into that peak of blue, there's a sense of, yeah, I want to go there. I want to tuck myself into this quilt and roll over and take a nap under this beautiful blue sky. Very inviting scene. Next.
Horse bit.
This is a photographer's image, in the sense that the light is just perfection, catching those nose hairs in that way. It is very moving. And the light has been it's a tricky lighting scenario because you have to catch the reflection and the absorption off of hair, fur from the mammal, but also off of metal, which is highly reflective, and off of leather, which is not particularly reflective. So we actually have three materials in here, absorbing and reflecting light differentially. And the person has managed light on every single one of them really well. And that's hard to pull off. Well, and there's also rope. And so I know there's lots of different kinds of light. I would say rim light is one of my favorite because of the way it outlines forms. And this rim light, starting from the nose at the top, you can sort of the rim light caresses the horse, and it is so affectionate. This is affectionate light. We can read that. We can feel that. Um, and again, look at the use of synecdoche. Like we are imagining the rest of the horse by looking at this piece of the horse, and really, what this piece gives us is a sense of intimacy, a sense of connection, a feeling of proximity for the horse. So we don't need to see the rest of the horse. The synecdoche works to bring us in emotionally to the story, and then our mind fills in the rest. Superbly done. I can imagine seeing this in Lenswork magazine. So do submit to Lenswork, please. Next.
A couple of cows head to the barn under a fiery Sonoma County sunset.
Now, without that title, I don't know that I would have noticed the cows. They're so small in scale, and I think that was the point of the title here. Um, it's drawing me into noticing that scale, which is very dramatic. Those are like pixel cows. Once you really register that scale, yeah, it is. It's quite astonishing to see this. And are the cows impressed with this sunset? You have to wonder. I like the ratio of land to sky here. We are, because we live on this human sphere, we tend to be, not see this amount of sky or not look up this much. But this ratio of land to sky, where the sky is so big, does really, it's a relief for us with our human troubles. It gives us a much bigger picture to look at and put our troubles in context and really diminish those concerns and gives us a breath of fresh air. So this so-called negative space is really positive space. It's breathing room, and it's the kind of big picture perspective that's very helpful for us and the cows. The texture of the clouds is really beautiful too. Next.
Swan at Spring Lake.
I love the gray tones here. You think about the zone system from 1 to 10, 1 being the whitest white, 10 being the blackest black, or reverse it, it doesn't matter. Typically we think of a successful image as touching as many of those points as possible. But this image is really kind of existing in those mid 4, 5, 6 number grayscale tones. And that is so moody and it is the stuff of poetry. It's so misty and foggy. It's like we're inside the subtext of a poem. Um, it's more about what is tacit than what is explicit. Um, Another thing that's working here is the leading lines. The pier itself is a leading line leading us straight to that almost disappearing swan. And then there's this other leading line on the right, a little reed or something leading us in. And both of them are just pointing straight to this figure that is almost vanishing in the fog. And so we really have to, the leading lines are drawing us in, but then we have to really focus to look at the details. Is the neck there or has it disappeared? And I think it's a beautiful detail. I want to be drawn in. I want to look at that closely. I want to know Swan World. And I want to part the veil on this fog and sit on that dock and really be in that world. So it's a very quiet invitation. How about that zigzag underneath the dock on the left? Beautiful. Next.
Golden Hour on the River, Richmond-on-Thames, England.
Yeah, high drama. Um, Boy, I think what's working here is the pairing of gold and blue. Like when you first look at it, looks like it's mostly a monochromatic gold image, but of course, Leonardo da Vinci was right that in every shadow there is blue, and we can see the blue in the shadows here. So there is actually a dichromatic color pairing here of gold and blue that work really well together. That cool calm with that exciting, vibrant warmth. Yeah, it's lovely. Even through the bridge, there's more gold behind that. Um, Wonderful color pairing. Okay, next.
Pictorial, advanced, 10 images. One Tree, Lake District, UK, September 2024.
Yeah, I like that dramatic tree. Um, and the position of it, that it's not smack in the middle in the center, it's a little bit off right, and it's in relationship with this mountain range. Each of them is having its moment. You can kind of oscillate your gaze back and forth between the mountain peak and the tree. Um, I really like the fringe of grasses that you can make out against the mountain, and I like the shape of this tree. And I think, there's something kind of, it's like a claw or like a chicken claw scratching the sky. Um, there's some yearning here in this tree. I'm also curious about, like, is there new growth and old growth here? Is this about renewal and the audacity of survival, just sort of clinging on? Um, it is a striking tree, and we can't help but identify with it in some sense. You can inhabit this position, you know. Um, Especially coming from a very individualistic culture, we might more identify with this individual lone tree in the landscape. Beautiful shape and form, and we are rooting for this tree. Next.
Two Boats on a Lake, Swift Current Lake, Glacier National Park.
Jesus, I definitely have photo envy here. I mean, I'm just going to start with the reflection of the light on the metal boat. That light that's being cast from the water onto the metal boat. I mean, that's just so beautiful. It's caustics. If you look up that shape that light makes when water waves are interfering with each other, that's called caustics light. And that is what we're seeing there, the reflection of caustic light. And I love that pattern. Um, and that pattern is picked up in the wave of the tree reflection. And it is, wow. I mean, anywhere you put your gaze, this image just keeps on giving more and more. I can kind of move around the image, and there's something there for me. Um, Whether it's the color palette or the texture or the shape. Um, it's just technically very strong, but it's not a technical image because it's not because it has feeling. It's not only a technical image. It's using technique in the service of feeling, and I think that's how technique is best wielded. In the image, we shouldn't really be thinking about technique. The technique should be so seamless that it gets you to story and feeling, and that is what's happening here. We want to lay down in that boat and just float away into that distance. Really beautifully done. Next.
Awaiting Their Turn.
What a great, see, that's a poetic title. I mean, that's actually having sympathy for each seed here. How many people have sympathy for each seed? And yeah, they are waiting their turn. They want to propel a whole genome into the environment. That's a tall order. And you have to catch the right breeze and land in an auspicious spot. So this poetic title kind of shows a kind of deep empathy with the plant, which people don't particularly have empathy for plants. So I love that title. Um, and really, we're in this world. This is a whole cosmos that we're in. We know the scale is tiny, and yet the person has photographed it in such a way that we're drawn into this whole universe. I'm guessing there was focus stacking done here because it is delicious. Um, Look at all of that radial symmetry. That is exuberant. And we wish you well, little genomes. Fabulous image. You could send this to Bay Nature magazine. There's a tiny bit of overexposure maybe on the seed pod, but this does not bother me. You might want to tone down that spot that's very white in the center. But other than that, I think this is just a fabulous image. Next.
Valley View, Lake District, UK, September 2024.
Interesting. So here we're really seeing layering from front to back instead of bottom to top. So I could have start at the mosses in the foreground and, scrabble my way inward. Um, there's kind of, yeah, I'm looking at the lighting, stronger lighting in the foreground than in the background. Yeah, these are the conditions for moss for sure. This would be a great place for a moss garden. It seems to be shaping up here. I'm getting the sense of how rugged you have to be as an organism to survive in this environment. And of course, the moss is what, about 400 million years old? We're only about 300,000. So that's a species that is rugged. Time has made it rugged and it's surviving. So really incredible to see how it's managed here. Um, I think though I start at the foreground and I move in and I kind of stop when I get to the tree and then it's kind of like I'm not going deeper in than that. And that's okay. Um, but I feel like maybe I'm stuck in this crevice and maybe there needs to be more of a focal point here. Um, so it's a question on my mind about the composition, but I do love the lighting and how it's showing us the ruggedness of survival here. Next.
A female howler monkey sends a call deep into her forest.
Yeah, what an extraordinary image. I mean, the detail on each fur, each little bit of hair. For them, it's fur. For us, it's hair. It's the same word. We just don't want to identify, but let's call it what it is. That's hair, or we have fur. Um, and what a fabulous image of a howler monkey. Because I think what you want to do when you're photographing a species is capture the thing that that species has evolved to do. And this is a creature that has evolved to be a drum, and it is drumming right now. Um, so yeah, a percussive animal at core, and you've caught that. You can kind of hear the sound that that mouth shape would make and how resonant that would be. Um, really impressive, the lighting on this. I love the soft focus in the background and the real, against that real clarity of her skin, her fur. There's chiaroscuro lighting, right? Which you saw a lot like in the, like Rembrandt portraits. This is it's not a full chiaroscuro, but it's a little bit leaning, it's like heading towards chiaroscuro, where the left half of her face is better lit than the right half. And that does create contour and drama. So that's an effective use of light here in this portrait. Gorgeous. Next.
Water dance.
I love this image. When I previewed the set, I looked at this for a very long time. And that's arguably a measure of how successful an image is how long you want to stick with the image and keep coming back to it. And I definitely, I could look at this and keep looking at it and keep looking at it and keep being interested, which is surprising because there isn't really one focal point. I guess you could say the rock emerging on the right is the one focal point, but really it's kind of a distributed focal point, which is a hard thing to pull off. But this person has, and they've done it with so much interesting texture. I mean, this is all about the beauty of tumult. Um, and there's no overexposure here, which is surprising. Um, it's feathery, it's tactile. It's like you want to touch it. It looks more solid than liquid. I can't even really articulate what it is about this, but there is something engrossing to me about this image. I'd love to see it printed on a really thick matte paper that absorbs a lot of ink and like a 330 GSM rag with texture to it and just see, does this look like a watercolor print when you print it on the right paper? I bet you it does. Next.
Sunflower emerges.
Yeah, I like the light on the sepals. Um, Beautiful lighting there. I'm more interested in the lighting on the sepals than I am on the rays, the yellow part. The the lighting on the sepals looks very subtle to me. And the lighting on the rays themselves that are unfurling looks not subtle. Now I've spoken about point and counterpoint, so you might think I would like that, but I think I want more subtle light. Um, I think it's almost too electric, that light in the center, like maybe overdone a little bit, whereas the light around on the sepals is just so quiet and soft and touching and moving. So I'm kind of more drawn in by that light than the kapow light in the center. But I think it's a beautiful image. I noticed that on the bottom left, there's some like what I would call schmutz. Like I think somebody was trying to, the person was trying to darken it up, but maybe miss some spots. There's also some irregularities in the stem itself. I'm not sure what's happening in the stem, but there's something wonky going on with the stem. So I might correct that and clean up the bottom left schmutz. Next.
Avocet trails.
Yeah, that's a poetic image. I would have been pleased with those reeds alone and the way that they're creating rhythm and this beautiful etching. Um, and the mirrored reflection. I love their shapes. There's something musical about those reeds. Um, and I kind of read it like a staff. And then that avocet is our note, or if the reeds are a sentence, the avocet is the exclamation point at the end of a well-crafted sentence. Um, and the way it's all stitched together by that water line and that particular leg being up, poised like that, like it's just perfection. The texture in the water, the low light. This is visual poetry. This is the kind of thing I would like to see on the ceiling when I go to the dentist. Something placid, serene, um, something to calm a worried soul. This should be at Kaiser in all the departments. Ironically, I'd like to see this one printed on metal. I don't know why. There's just something about the quality of the light and the texture that I think would look really great on metal. Last thing I'll mention is I love the aspect ratio. That long panorama is just perfection for this story. Next.
Is it our turn yet?
So the title is certainly inhabiting their perspective, which I appreciate rather than being objects that are looked at. The title suggests that we might imagine what it's like to be them. And I don't think their perspective as young Indigenous women is often considered. So I appreciate that title. Um, and yeah, they're looking off to the left, and there's some action off to the left that we can't see that is absorbing to them. I'm curious what that is. As um, because we are essentially well-dressed monkeys, we we will follow the eye gaze of other members of our species. So because they're looking off left, we're going to look at them and then we're going to look off left, and all the action is going to happen over here off screen where we can't see it. So it's risky when people are looking off screen because that means the viewer looks off screen and we're kind of left out of the story. It's like a joke that we don't know the punchline of. What's softening that here is the girl looking back. She's kind of keeping us back in the image. If it were just the three girls on the right, we might leave the image entirely. But the girl looking back is kind of bringing us back in. I appreciate that it's not all about their developing breasts. That would be a little bit creepy. And I know in National Geographic, that kind of imagery, there's a lot of that. But this is actually quite respectful, I think, of um, the stage they're at, and and it's actually at their level. And there's beautiful catch lights on their hair. Like I think this is a very sensitive portrait, actually, culturally sensitive. Um, the only thing I would say is like, could we find out what's happening on the left? And I want more of that story. But next.
What lies beneath Windladder Forest, Lake District, UK, September 2024?
This reminds me of that view we saw earlier of the sea lions and the Galapagos and the under reflection of the water. This has that similar feel of being below ground and above ground at the same time and getting to see the membrane between the two worlds, which is quite impressive. Not something we normally get to see, sort of being peeled back here for us. And that undulating curve is captivating. The light on it, the moss on it, the ferns on it, that is really striking. And partly I think that's because it's a fresh new grass. So it's like, it's a vibrant green. And the lichen is a vibrant green. I love the way that the top part is made up of linear elements, but there's nothing linear about this. This is all undulating form. So it's a undulating form composed of lines, which is a bit surprising. Um, and we're getting to see the brain of this colonial organism, right? I mean, there's this whole new root brain theory, which is that plants do their thinking with their root structures. Um, it's the equivalent of our brains. So, and of course, they're communicating with each other. So it's a collective brain. So to get to see, it's sort of like peeling back the skull and getting to see the inner workings of the thinking part of this forest. That is exciting. Um, so I do love this image, and I think the aspect ratio is spot on. This long, wide image captures this undulating form really beautifully. Next.
Pictorial Masters, 7 images. On a calm Napa River night.
Isn't that extraordinary? I would have been pleased with the silhouette of the mountains and that thin strip of human, you know, suggestion of the human sphere. That little line is us. Um, I love the way that the bay breaks up those silhouetted forms. And then I would have been satisfied with the ombre, that gradual change of color from top to bottom without really a line or a seam in between. But then, add the meteor on top of that. Wow, that's an impressive image. Um, it's tough to beat these cosmic images because of the scale of perspective they're offering up. Astrophotography, it often does win in these competitions just because it's referencing, such a larger sphere. So that is a striking image. We do wonder what's going to happen next. Is this thing going to get burned up? Is it going to hit? Is there going to be an impact? Is it going to be like the KT extinction 65 million years ago? This is high drama and so technically well rendered. You can kind of forget about the technique and think about the larger cosmic view. So exceptionally well done. Next.
Morning light, Lodi.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, we see a lot of egret images, and I say, bring them on. Like, that's an extraordinarily graceful animal, and I want to see more of it. What I'm enjoying about this is the low light on the wings. You can see how much blue there is in that shadowy light. Um, And I like that the gold is behind it. It's kind of a reversal. Like usually we put warm colors in the foreground moving toward us and cool colors in the background moving away. But here you have gold in the background and blue on the wings. So the color palettes have been reversed, which is a little surprising. And I like that surprise. There's like, it's almost like the egret and I in that blue section, we're in on a quiet secret before the day has even awoken behind it. There is a sense of intimacy here from that color palette and lighting scenario. So draws me in. And then there's the beautiful detail in the talons on the feet. Wonderful. Next.
The Thinker, or a Japanese snow monkey doing a good imitation.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Of course, they do think things, probably not too dissimilar to what we think. Um, so it's a fair comparison. Um, that's really the question that this image poses. It's about theory of mind, right? To what extent does this animal have an inner life as complex and rich as my own? To what extent does it understand its own experience? What is the level of consciousness here? To what extent can we see eye to eye? I think it poses all of these really important questions about whether we are more alike or more unalike. Um, and so, in that sense, it's sort of we're confronted with an existential puzzle here um, that even if we can't solve, we like to think about. Photographically, I love the detail in some of the fur. Um, the white part on the right is maybe distracting. I see that it was cropped down to try to get rid of some of that white part. The white has a little bit of overexposure on it. Um, but I can see that the cropping choice was such that like you kept the fur and you tried to get rid of the white. The white is important for giving us the context of snow, though, so I see the value of keeping it. And really, it doesn't keep the white isn't so distracting because I do keep going into those eyes and I just keep looking and looking. And what I'm noticing here is that this is an animal that doesn't have whites in the eyes. So actually, we can't follow each other's gaze the way that we do it because we use the whites to help track and communicate non-verbally. They don't. So that's a difference between us. And otherwise, though, the eyes are full of emotion and feeling and arguably intelligence. Next.
Headwaters of Sonoma Creek, Sugarloaf Ridge State Park.
Yeah, a peaceful scene. I love the low lighting here. Um, I like the triangle in the bottom left, wedging this into place, locking us in. Our eye is not going to leave that left side because of that triangle holding the composition down. Um, I love the calm lighting at the bottom of this vertical canopy. I can see we have a brighter, more exciting lighting at the top, but that really reinforces the vertical structure here. We know that it must be enough of a canopy that there's strong light at top and it's getting filtered down to this low light at the bottom. So we get a sense of the whole vertical ecosystem here from that lighting. And look at that blue bottom, the blue light at the bottom. That's just so peaceful and beautiful. I want to go there. Um, I think the detail is well done. We can even make out detail on the bark. So there's some nice texture here. But overall, this is about mood and feeling and the serenity of being in this place. And it's contagious. I feel it. Next.
In the grips of the polar vortex.
Wow. This is another image I kept coming back to a lot. There's a lot here. Um, those blues and those golds together, that's really a beautiful color pairing. Um, I think one thing that's working here is that there's a combination of symmetry and asymmetry. Too much symmetry on its own is beautiful but static and lifeless. Too much asymmetry on its own is maybe too chaotic and doesn't have enough order. But pairing symmetry with asymmetry really works. So you have a symmetric line here. There's an x-axis line where it's symmetrical above and below. Um, but then there's an asymmetry on the vertical axis. So on the y-axis, it's not symmetrical. There's the asymmetry. And I think having x-axis symmetry and y-axis asymmetry is a winning composition. Then add the color palette, the dichromatic color palette, add the streaks and the textures in the distorted reflection. One thing I want to check, I'm going to flip this upside down. I'm sort of curious what it would look like if the whole thing were upside down and the realistic portion were removed. I'm not second guessing the artist's choices. I'm just curious about that. Yeah, very compelling to look at. I'm not sure that I understand the polar vortex reference, but I would love to learn more about that from the artist. Next.
First light on the Eastern Sierra.
Yeah, another image I looked at several times in the preview. Again, there's that same, you have basically an x-axis symmetry and a y-axis asymmetry. Again, just like the last image, they're of a kind in that sense. You can see on the left side, there's like a heaviness on the left side and a lightness on the right side. And that kind of balance, that if it were just heavy and light, that wouldn't work. But with the symmetry, top and bottom, it does work. Um, so that's something to think about is like how to use different symmetries together to create a compelling image. And this person has done that. Although, of course, when you look at this image, you don't necessarily think about symmetry right away. That's like the behind the scenes compositional approach. But what you think about is, I mean, I think your average person, what they're going to think about, hopefully, is the incredible relationship between the hydrosphere and the geosphere, and the way that the hydrosphere has shaped the geosphere, and how odd it is that something that is liquid could carve rock. There's a Zen koan there. Um, Beautiful and contemplative. Next.
September song.
Hmm. God, the light on that rock face is extraordinary. Look at all the detail. Look at the texture. I mean, you can touch and feel that light. That is the light of admiration for sure. You know, this is how John Muir wanted Theodore Roosevelt to feel. You know, this was like if he had this image, he could have created the national parks a lot quicker. You know, I mean, this is the stuff of earth propaganda and conservation law. Um, yeah, again, I would have been satisfied with just the light on that rock face, but then that swirly, soft, dreamy, creamy texture in the bottom of the water, that is also quite satisfying. And then the red against that green, oh, it's compelling. Yeah, I wish we could show this to John Muir and hide all the cars in the parking lot. Yeah, this is great. Next.
Travel, basic and intermediate, 2 images. Fishermen catching fish at Poipu Beach, Kauai.
Yeah, strong image. This is an exciting moment. It's like in suspended animation. Um, I like his gesture and the light on his skin. You know, this person really captured the light on his skin well. It's bringing out the gold tones of his skin on his head, on his arm, on his leg. It's really a beautiful, flattering light for him. Um, and I appreciate that the person attended to that. He's not just a prop in this story. He's attended to, like, he's been painted with light the way a painter would caress their subject with light. Um, and then that exciting net, you know, in midair, it has an aspect like the waves crashing on the shore. It is an undulating form also. Um, and I like the way that it's cutting the horizon. The horizon being such a strong line is kind of a harsh line here, but this is cutting that horizon, kind of stitching the ocean to the sky in a beautiful way. Good luck to the fish. Next.
When traveling in Jakarta, omelet is your way. Jakarta, Indonesia.
So I like the obviously the triangle in the lower left corner. You can tell I'm a fan of that move. Keeps us in the image. The diagonal is more interesting than had it been shot in another angle. Um, and you have a combination here of triangles, diagonals, circles, and ovoids. So beautiful. Ooh, and I like that that spoon is at exactly the same diagonal. It's parallel to that ledge there. Um, yeah, parallel lines are working here. Ooh, several sets of parallel lines, actually, the more I look at it. So yeah, there's some nice geometry here and some beautiful side lighting on these eggs. So yeah, a good scene. I don't know that I'm that emotionally tied to it. Maybe I would be more emotionally tied if there were a hand involved or some action happening in addition to the resting of these things. But for what it is, it's a beautiful scene. Next.
Travel, advanced, 3 images. Wrestling off the beaten path. Nadam Festival wrestling competition in Olgi, a town located in the far west of Mongolia.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. We don't get to see this every day. Um, one of the things that is managed so well here is the fact that all of the spectators are somehow basically blue. Like I see that there's red and pink and greens in there, but somehow as a mass they are blue. I don't know how that was achieved. So we're not actually kind of latching on to the red in the background. And in contrast, all that pink and yellow and red in the foreground is like really making them stand out as protagonists. And the fact that that guy in the pink is looking at he's looking at the wrestlers, but he also is kind of looking our way a little bit. He's sort of in between. So we're kind of drawn in to him, and then we're looking at the wrestlers through him. And yeah, that is dramatic and exciting. Um, I guess we've always liked a Roman Colosseum gladiator contest. Um, that's maybe in our nature of enjoying this kind of spectacle. But I think the color work here is what draws me in. Very compelling color work. Next.
Photographers traveled to this site to capture the stormy skies anchored by these two landmarks, Courthouse and Jailhouse Rock, Western Nebraska, June 2024.
Very dramatic. Um, yeah, that is the stuff of literature right there. Um, Impressive skies. In a way, these rocks do feel kind of animated. Um, there's something like I don't know, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something. Yeah, I'm tempted to it feels like the image is personifying these rocks. But the light is just beautiful throughout. High drama lighting, gorgeously rendered. This is the light. I'm sure this person was very patient to get this light. Took their time and waited for just the right moment, and this is it. Next.
Old Wall and Moat of Chiang Rai, Thailand, founded in 1262.
So to me, I think this is mostly about the ginger in the foreground. And I guess that's because it's red. So it's getting my attention more than the kind of the structure in the background. I see that the title is more about the structure in the background. But to me, the castle is actually playing a supporting character for the ginger. Um, so I guess the question of what is the main focal point? Yeah, the red is kind of stealing the show a little bit from that muted orange. I do like the framing though. It does lead us in, but um, Ginger might be upstaging things here if what we're trying to look at is the wall structure itself. Beautiful photograph of Ginger. Next.
Travel Masters, 5 images. The town of Ilulissat, Greenland, is located on Disco Bay on the west coast. The bay is renowned for its abundance of icebergs. The name Ilulissat means iceberg in the indigenous language.
That's cool to learn. Um, yeah, I was astonished by the scale of this. I mean, when I first saw it, I did not, by the time my gaze had landed on the little painted houses there, I was really surprised to see the scale. I did not expect those houses to be so tiny, which really tells us something about the scale of those icebergs, which at first pass appear diminutive but are not. Yeah, those little painted houses add so much to this image in terms of really getting the sense that the human sphere is small compared to the hydrosphere and the geosphere. Um, and how ironic, therefore, that we're impacting all of this glacial melting to the extent that we are. Um, yeah, it's an image I've not seen before. This is new to me, and I appreciate getting to travel to this place through you. And what an impressive view. We're kind of snaking our way into the background. It's not so much a leaning line here as it is a leading serpentine curve. I kind of start in the foreground, weave in, and we keep weaving all the way to the back. And of course, we're thinking about climate change all that way. Yeah, beautifully done. Next.
Visiting the National Museum of African American History and Culture, the 19th Smithsonian. The museum opened in 2016, Washington, D.C.
Well, I appreciate you telling me about that. I didn't even know that it had opened. That's now on my bucket list. I want to go there. So that's going to be really interesting. And what a beautiful building it is. That is gorgeous architecture, gorgeous light. I like the framing here. Wow, a lot to navigate here with that shadow and light. I wonder what the logic is of that architecture and light scenario in terms of the African American history story. Is this maybe an African architecture? I'm not sure, but I would like to learn about that. I like the figures at the top of the escalator. I sort of wish we had more light on the face of the person in the foreground, but certainly the light and shadow are compelling, as are the shapes. And this is a place that we have learning to do. So appreciate even learning about it at all. Next.
Feeding pellets to rare Rothschild giraffes at the nonprofit Giraffe Center is a top activity for tourists in Nairobi, Kenya. Giraffes' tongues are usually blue to prevent sunburn.
So, okay, getting back to synecdoche here, our word of the night. Isn't it effective here? Right? We don't need to see the whole person. Just seeing this hand is so interesting, and we can fill in the rest with our minds. How does that person feel? We can kind of put ourselves in their position. What's it like to touch a giraffe tongue? Is it scratchy? Is it smooth? Is it wet and saliva-y? What is it? We want to know. And this moment of contact is really, really exciting. We want contact with other animals. How it is that we are looking down on the giraffe, that's a little surprising. Um, and how it is that blue prevents sunburn, that is a question I am going to leave with tonight and go down an internet rabbit hole to try to figure out. Um, because, a lot of animals are like hippopotamus, they're producing their own sunblock through their skin, but it's pink. And I don't know why blue would work. So I have questions. And I like an image that poses questions that requires me to do some research. That's a good thing. Next.
Traversing the Loddon Locks on the Caledonian Canal, which connects the North Sea to the Atlantic Ocean through the heart of Scotland.
But I think one of the things that's so compelling here is the use of cross-hatching. So the whole canal is a diagonal from upper left to bottom right, but then the rope line is from lower right to upper left. And if you notice, there's a lot of stitched lines here, a lot of X marks. There's all these diagonals throughout the frame, lots of them, and they're crossing each other. And that is an effective way to stitch or embroider a composition together. There's like an implied integration from that cross hatching. There's even an X right in the middle on one of the flags. This whole thing is about compositionally is about X's and how X's kind of integrate and stitch an image. Obviously, that's not the story of the image. The story of the image is something else entirely, but I think the cross-hatching and the stitching makes us want to look long enough to consider that story, so it's compositionally effective. There's also color work here that's working. There's kind of an implied triad here of red, blue, and yellow, which as a triad is a very, compelling primary color composition. So a lot drawing us in both compositionally, structurally, and color-wise. Next.
The iconic totem pole, the tallest spire in the world at 381 feet and last climbed by Clint Eastwood in 1975, is best seen via a Jeep tour with a Navajo guide. Monument Valley Tribal Park, Utah.
This is a really nice example of how to break a rule well. I would say in general, one of the rules photographers have is like we don't really want to see cars in the image unless it's like about a race car, but this is the exception to that rule because this car is so useful in terms of storytelling. Um, it's doing a couple things. One is it's setting the scale. Um, and the scale is dramatic because that looks like a little toy car. So it really helps us appreciate the size and scale of these structures. Um, but also it's a focal point because it's red and a reference to humans. So the eye keeps oscillating. The eye will go, from the totem poles to the car and back and forth. And so the eye is not actually given a chance to leave the edges or flee the scene. So it's really a really useful focal point for keeping the eye in the image. Um, and it also, we can also see how rugged this environment is and how hard it would be to survive there. Can you imagine being lost and walking your way through this? Like, that'd be tough to survive. So the Jeep is also about sort of the miracle of even surviving in this environment. So this is an example where we do want to see the car, and it's doing a lot of heavy lifting here. It's also red, so it's drawing our eyes straight in as a focal point. A surprising way to showcase these totem poles, but it really works. Next.
Okay, we've completed all of our images. We'll take another 5-minute break and then we'll come back with the awards.
Please. Framed Advanced plus Masters for images. Honorable mention. Ellen.
Thank you.
M key.
What's that?
M key.
Press the M key to show
The M
the
key.
metadata for the image.
Yep.
If it's there. If there's not any, then it doesn't show up.
It's off my screen. I don't know how.
Well, anyway, there was this school next to our hotel, and I just fortuitously was going by, and this kid was just wonderful. And I didn't know what the sign means, and I asked the leader, and he says it's a sign for cool.
That's
Okay.
It's a beautiful image. I love it.
That's good.
Awesome.
Congratulations. Third place, Cindy.
Cindy here? I don't think Cindy's here tonight.
I thought she was here earlier, but apparently not. So we can't find out if it's actual or composited. Anyway, congratulations to Cindy. Second place, me.
All right, Steve.
And this is just off screen to the right is Tricia. And Tricia and I were taking the Sonoma Marin Smart Train down to San Francisco, where I was leading a tour of our group of the Popos in downtown San Francisco. And Becky, do you know what Popos are?
I don't.
Privately owned public open spaces.
Oh, wow.
And some of them are on the rooftops of the skyscrapers and other gardens where you have to go into a lobby and around a corner, and you have to know where they are. But there is a website that lists them. So if you ever want to go on an adventure in downtown, look up Popos.
Yeah, Popo has such a different meaning in Oakland.
Anyway, the cap was interfering with me holding the camera, and I just tossed it there. And I left it there because closing it out didn't work, and it was a human element.
Okay.
Congratulations to me and first place, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This was on the same trip that
that Steve led to San Francisco. And
This was actually one of the popos.
this was, yes, yeah. Anyway, it was really great trip, and for this theme, San Francisco just can't be beat. It just
Oh, yeah.
so many things.
Mhm.
And
Well,
anyway, yeah,
San Francisco is useful, but this is good seeing. So you
Good.
get the credit here.
thank you.
Good job, Jennifer.
Well said. Yeah.
Congratulations. Nature, basic plus intermediate, 4 images, honorable mention. Elizabeth.
It looks like her artwork.
Mhm.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
It was an iPhone. You're right.
I can tell that.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
She's going all abstract and that kind of looks like it.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Elizabeth. Third place, Anthony.
Hey.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Anthony. I
Congratulations.
remember that you posted
job.
that on Facebook. I remember it.
I did do that. Yes. Thank you.
Nice bird.
Congratulations.
Really beautiful.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have guessed it was a great blue, that's for sure.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't know enough about them. I've only ever seen blue ones.
There is a poem by Mary Oliver about the great blue heron, but she refers to it as an old Chinese poet. You may want to read that.
They changed their coloring for depending on the season.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second place, Martin.
Martin here.
Didn't see him.
That's a good one, man.
That
Yeah.
is a
Really good.
fabulous image.
Congratulations to Martin. First place, Helen.
Wow.
Yeah, beautiful, Helen. Oh,
Beauty.
Thank you.
Does that cheetah have eyeliner on like JD Vance? What's happening?
We're supposed to notice.
Toenail polish too.
And a collar.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
Congratulations.
That's
Wonderful
great. Thank
image.
you.
Whole image. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Lovely image.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Nature Advanced, 5 images, honorable mention. Mark.
Beautiful.
That's
He's
gorgeous.
so good at backwards.
Yeah.
He was here, wasn't he?
He was here, yeah.
Yeah.
We lost someone.
Really nice.
This is a guy who understands prime lenses. You might want to pick his brain about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Yeah. Wow.
He's so distinctive, you can usually see the image and know it's Mark.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Congratulations to Mark. Honorable mention.
Here's your problems.
Oh,
Tricia.
There's-
That's a beauty. Yeah.
thank you. This is taken, there's a pullout off Highway 37 going towards San Rafael.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
my husband and I always stop and look at all the birds there. It's just a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Like
great.
need to go there. Field trip.
Field trip won't last long.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Love the framing.
Yes.
Congratulations. Third place, Pat.
Wow.
Wow, Pat, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's outstanding.
Fantastic.
Now, see, I would have sworn that was Mark.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was going to be Mark. But,
Way to go, Pat.
Harvesting in harmony.
I mean, isn't this where we got Velcro from? Look at their feet.
Mm.
Those are Velcro feet.
Congratulations to Mark. Second place,
Oh, to Pat.
Linda.
Oh, yeah, there are a lot of other birds besides the sandhill cranes there. I just love the little rays coming down.
Don't they call them God rays?
Yes.
Yes.
This is God lighting,
Yeah,
yes.
that's what I thought.
Definitely God rays. Yeah, that was a wonderful field trip to Lodi.
Yeah.
Love your descriptions of everything.
I know, you're so eloquent.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Inspiring.
I definitely pay my dues at Bird Church.
Mhm.
The lighting is absolutely beautiful.
Mhm.
It was a lovely sunrise or sun peeking through. Thank you.
Congratulations. First place,
Oh,
Stephanie.
Oh God, that's amazing.
Billy, come on.
Amazing. I've seen this before. I think she entered this before. It's incredible.
Ah, just stunning.
Yeah, it really is.
Both eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What an encounter.
Ah,
National Geographic picture.
totally.
Definitely.
Yeah.
400 millimeter. Yeah.
Must have been on burst mode, right? Because how would you catch that if it weren't on burst mode?
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Maybe-
absolutely.
And we didn't even talk about the positioning part. It did turn this around so that it won't choke on scales. That's amazing.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Pretty
One thing
smart.
a lot of people don't know about catfish like that is those pectoral fins that are right up there towards its head. Those actually, they have like serrations in them, so they actually can cut and they will lock in position. If they go into an animal's mouth, they will go straight out and lock, and they will not go back the other way. So if another animal tried to pull a catfish out of there, those would go right through the
Wow.
bird's neck. They cannot get them out again.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's kind of like,
Jeez.
screw you, you're gonna die. Pretty- it's-
Evolutionary one-upsmanship here.
yeah, exactly. You may have me,
That was
but
very interesting. Thank you, Steve.
Gosh.
being a fisherman and caught a lot of catfish
I-
in my day,
I was just going to say that.
and seeing what's happened.
Congratulations to Stephanie.
Beautiful.
Honorable mention, Herb.
Herb. Yeah. Ooh.
Investors, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. This was fun, just snorkeling off the coast and in a little point and shoot in a waterproof case. And these guys were swimming all around, so I like the fact that you could get the water on top and see the bubbles in it. So it was a fun shot to take.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
cool.
Thank you.
A great opportunity.
Nice adventure.
Congratulations. Honorable mention, Cindy.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's a gorgeous, gorgeous picture.
Beautiful.
Love the colors.
Love that bird.
Amazing bird.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Contrast between
Fact
eye and
about
green.
a fun fact about these birds is the male bird makes the whole nest, and then the female comes along, and if she doesn't like it, she rips it up, and he has to start all over again.
Oh, oh my gosh.
Well, at least she doesn't eat him.
That's a good
That's true.
Pretty bird. Oof.
Congratulations to Cindy.
Yeah.
Third place, Cindy again.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. That's
Stunning. Monte Vista.
Congratulations to Cindy. Second place,
Oh,
Tamara.
That was so cool.
So good.
It had to be tomorrow's.
yeah.
Fantastic.
Wow.
How did she get that? I'm
Oh.
curious.
Up in a tree, maybe.
Probably looking down at from maybe a hide or something, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And look at that mud. So dark.
Yeah. Oof.
There's
Squishy
red all over the back too. It's like, oh.
Yeah, they were probably fighting. That's like a
Yeah.
scar on the right.
Right. Yeah. Ooh.
Looks really interesting. The colors.
Yeah.
Goes in my river.
Copy a pair. The one on the right looks pregnant.
Oh,
That could be.
yeah. Or real chubby.
American zebra.
Congratulations
Right.
to Tamara. First place.
Ah,
I'm
Tamara
working.
again.
Oh, man.
that's.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I
Wow.
wonder what she was sitting in to get this picture.
And how far away?
Yes.
65 millimeter.
Look
Yeah,
at the
not,
whiskers.
she's not very far away.
Oh,
Wow.
not very far at all.
Look at the whiskers. We didn't even talk about the whiskers. Jesus.
65 millimeters. Oh my gosh.
We've seen a glass bubble.
It'll be right in your face.
Wow. That's
Wow.
impressive.
Congratulations to Tamara.
1-to-1.
Pictorial, basic plus intermediate, 4 images, honorable mention. Martin.
Oh, love
Oh,
this.
that's gorgeous.
Like the sky. Oy. Beautiful.
Congratulations.
Mm.
Good job, Martin. Good perspective in color.
I just want to be there to see it.
Yes.
I love the drone there.
Congratulations to Marty. Third place. Anthony.
Oh, Anthony.
Thank
Yay.
you again.
Congratulations, Anthony.
That's so neat and subtle.
Minimalism.
Yeah.
Really nice.
But Becky said it better.
Everything
says a
was
lot of
said
things better.
What I neglected to say is that swans are jerks. So this is propaganda. I mean,
Are you talking about all swans or
from
the
afar, they're
non-mute
beautiful.
kind?
They close up, they're ornery, so
Oh, they are.
Very
very
ornery.
And vicious. They are
Vicious.
vicious.
yeah, so it's better to see them from a little distance
Yes.
where they
I had to run like hell after taking the shot,
Congratulations. Second place.
Oh, pretty.
Marty again.
That's a beaut.
Racking them up.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
The colors are just beautiful.
Yeah, stunning
Mhm.
colors.
The sky and the water, really pretty.
Mm.
Congratulations to Marty. First place.
Oh,
Helen.
Gorgeous.
Oh,
Great shot.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
amazing.
Stunner.
that is a winner. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
From to touch it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, just the light is just so gorgeous.
Yeah. The hairs.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well seen and well edited. Very, very
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Pictorial Advance, 5 images, honorable mention.
Oh,
Linda.
Oh, thank you. That's my
Oh, Linda,
my
that
happy
is
place.
a postcard.
It's my happy place. Yeah.
that's
The
beautiful.
caustic light.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
It's,
looks like
it's a
an
beautiful, beautiful park. Yeah. Thank you. Loved all your comments.
You
They're
gave me
very-
a lot to work with here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations. Honorable mention.
Oh,
Stephanie.
wow.
Oh, the howler. Wow.
That is so cool.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Hear him.
Yeah, I like that.
I just want to note, like, either of these images could have won in another set, and it's a testament to how strong the set is that this is only an honorable mention. So if you didn't win, it's not because your work isn't stellar. It's because your peers here are also stellar.
That's right. A lot of stellars.
Congratulations to Stephanie. Third place.
Oh,
Ed.
Mm.
Does anybody see the cat head in the big part?
Is it lit up?
Yeah, it looks like a cat face.
Yep.
So that's a case of pareidolia,
Yep.
which is seeing faces where they are not, and some people have it stronger than others.
We do that pareidolia a lot in this club.
Yeah.
I would ask Ed, given it's in UK, often on top of bogs in marshy areas, they almost kind of bounce up and down and sometimes tilt over like this.
Read.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Ed. Second
Ed.
place. Trisha.
Knew that was a Trisha pick.
Thank you so much. This was one of the first times I've felt successful doing slow motion water photography. And we went to Sugarloaf Ridge State Park, and I practiced and practiced, and I'm very pleased. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Should be pleased.
Beautiful.
Good.
Yeah,
And all the color.
the
Wow.
colors. Are so
Yeah.
nice.
Good title too.
Yeah, texture.
Subtlety. Got subtlety to it.
Thanks.
Congratulations. First place.
Yeah.
Mark.
Mark.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a beaut.
Yeah, lovely
Very
composition.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Really lovely.
Great
Timing.
reflections. Very moody.
Tranquil.
Yeah, tranquil.
Graceful, elegant.
The water is so beautiful.
Congratulations to Mark. Pictorial Masters, 5 images. Honorable mention. Bill.
Thank you. I was there to see sandhill cranes, but
But you take what you can get, huh?
they had egrets too.
Whatever. Yeah.
Birds can steal the show sometimes.
That's really pretty.
Yeah.
Early morning.
Love the lighting.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Honorable mention. Tony, Chicago.
Yeah, I love this.
Nice. Wow.
He needs to explain the polar vortex though.
Well, because it's so cold there.
It's
Well,
yeah,
actually,
that's like
where
the-
Chicago is concerned,
Little ice in the water.
if this were well into the polar vortex, the entire water would be frozen solid with brown pieces and so forth, and you can walk out. You can actually, the lake will freeze over and you can walk from Illinois all the way over to Michigan if you dare.
I'm hell would have to freeze over before I would do
Yes,
that.
there you go. With you there, Ronnie.
Well, they're working on it.
Congratulations to Tony.
Yeah, great image.
Beautiful image.
Yeah.
Third place, Tony again.
Oh,
Eastern Sierra.
Great shot.
Maybe
This
that's
looks like
right.
it's near Bishop.
Yeah, I think I bet it is.
Eastern Sierra, yeah.
These two are compositionally so similar. I guess it shouldn't be a surprise they're the same artist.
Yeah, interesting.
I love the
Yeah.
softness and the color palette in this.
Yeah.
Developing your own style.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations to Tony. Second place,
Mm,
Herb.
Herb.
Oh,
Herb.
picture.
Thank you. This is, I guess, a well-known position within Yosemite, but you have to get lucky to get the tree at the right level of red. And this was actually a 30-second exposure, so that's where
Wow.
the
And the
clouds go
sky.
and the water.
But the water looks so good.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Beautiful water, beautiful sky.
Yeah.
It must have been a quiet day. I mean, no wind. It's
Yeah,
30
that
seconds.
I thought about that after. You're right. For 30-second exposure, you would expect a little more movement, but maybe
Yeah, no?
got
Oh, that's beautiful.
averaged
Herb,
out. So,
Herb, I'm going to give you a big compliment on this. If you study the photography of David Minch, who arguably is to color photography as Ansel Adams is to black and white, he was known for this type of color photography. And the other big thing he's famous for is leading the eye into the image. He was pioneer in that area.
thanks, Steve. Yeah, I have his book.
And you're related, right, Steve?
Distant.
I love it. Absolutely amazing. I'd have that on my wall.
Yep, me too.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Congratulations. First place. Steve.
Hey,
I guessed
I
it.
remember when you took that.
It's a comet, not a meteor.
Oh,
Yeah.
my apologies.
Definitely comet.
Oh,
And
That's why the
I
tail is going up.
Yeah, you're quite right. I misspoke.
the other thing about this, notice the reflection in the water.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, this comet, this is 2 images. So the comet actually was a little higher in the sky and a little smaller. So I used 2 different lenses, 2 different actual prime lenses, and then combined them, and then I created that reflection. So sorry to say it's a fake reflection.
Did a good job faking it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was probably about 2.5 hours worth of editing on this
Oh,
image.
yeah. Wow.
But thank you.
That's all?
Oh, the second edit. I had to edit each of both of the images independently and then put them together. So the second portion of it was probably a good 2.5 hours.
I only said that because you always spend so much time on your images.
I know. Well, and now the astro images, the deep sky images that I'm starting to do, it's ridiculous. It's like I didn't know. I knew I would have to get into a lot of layering, but mainly lots and lots of stacking. But then you start getting into the filters. So you're stacking lights and darks and biases.
Yep.
And hopefully all of you are going out for the parade of the planets lining up. We've got like
probably not
7 of the 9 planets lining up in the sky. It's an extremely rare event.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I know.
And where do you go to see it?
You can come to my deck if you like.
About 3 hours after sunset, looking to the south, I believe.
You can also see them in the morning right after sunrise, I think, or right before sunrise.
Before sunrise, yeah.
Steve, I would suggest giving this the title Aperçu, Apercu, which means a stroke of insight.
Okay. Thank
that's a
you.
good one.
Nice. Thank you.
Good word.
Good word.
Is it Latin?
Thank you.
Does the C have a
Congratulations.
curly Q on the bottom?
What's that?
Oh, that I don't know. We should find out. Rabbit hole time.
Travel, basic plus intermediate, 2 images, second place. Elizabeth.
Oh. Oh.
Congratulations, Elizabeth.
Congratulations. First place.
Nice.
Helen.
Oh, amazing.
Really cool.
Thank you.
Nice capture. Wow.
Yeah, great capture, and be able to get details with that net without it kind of disappearing is good too.
Yeah, very nicely done.
Taking
That was
pictures of people throwing in nets, and a lot of times they're not as white and they kind of disappear. So it's good that that's a pretty new net.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was It was actually very interesting because I was sitting on the beach watching the turtles, and I saw this guy go out. So I flew across the beach like a lunatic, and I asked him permission if I could photograph him because I just had this vision before it happened that I could get this net in the sky. And he said, absolutely, on one condition, I buy him a drink.
Oh,
Go to the bar and buy him a drink, and he picked this cocktail that was so strong. I'm sure it would have knocked me flying if I had drunk it.
Oh my gosh,
It was worth it to get that shot.
mhm.
that's great. Oh my gosh.
You basically caught your fish, Helen.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nice
Congratulations.
story, too.
Thank you.
Travel Advance, 3 images. Third place,
Hmm.
Ellen.
Is Ellen still here?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
I like your shadow.
Oh,
the
yes, the
shadow's
self-portrait. Yeah.
There's Ellen.
I don't see her.
Are you
Right
saying
in the
my
middle,
shot
with
there?
foliage. In the ginger.
Oh, there it is.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I see it now.
Self-portrait.
I can see it.
Oh,
That's funny.
Well, I like it better now myself.
Awesome.
I do too.
Mhm.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second place,
Mm.
Pat.
So interesting.
yeah. Wow, Mongolia.
So well traveled.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely, lovely colors. I love it. It just pops.
Mhm.
Congratulations to Pat. First place, Sherry.
Very.
Oh,
Oh, thank you. I have to
Oh,
tell you,
Sherry.
after days and days and days of driving around a totally flat landscape, it was so delightful to hear and see something actually rising out of the ground.
It was totally worth it.
yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
The
Thank
That's-
pictures are
Wow.
amazing.
Absolutely stunning.
It's majestic.
Bucket list shot. Wow.
Oh,
I could
totally.
see this at the beginning of a movie
Oh,
Yeah.
by John Ford.
okay.
Jesus and Mary walking in the foreground pulling a donkey or something.
Get Clint Eastwood to climb it.
There you go.
It also reminds me of Willa Cather's Death Comes from the Archbishop, which is like a whole book that reads like a painting. And this could be that.
Mhm.
Well, thank you.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
Another wall hanger. Big wall.
Yes.
Big wall.
Congratulations. Travel Masters, 5 images. Honorable mention,
Mm.
Jennifer.
Jennifer.
Oh, thank you.
Very cool.
This was taken from an airplane
Oh, good job.
through the glass. Well, yeah, it was. I couldn't get the focus quite right because of the distortion from that tinted airplane glass, but it was just such the scale, as Becky mentioned, it was just so interesting that I had to keep it and put it in anyway. But thank you.
Beautiful image.
Really
I love
cool.
the little buildings.
Yeah, it's amazing how little they look.
How big the icebergs are.
Congratulations.
Easy.
Honorable mention, Bill.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, interesting canal. It goes back to the 1600s when the Spanish were patrolling the North Sea, and so the only way to get from north to south was through this canal.
Oh my.
It's a little narrow now.
It looks really narrow.
Really cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Third place, Tamara.
Oh,
so cute. Great.
Yeah, Great card too.
Mm.
Congratulations to Tamara.
Mm.
Second place, Anne.
All right, Anne.
Hey.
If you have not been to DC and been to this museum, you have got to go.
I've seen it from the outside. It's so beautiful.
Oh yeah, it has this bronze lattice
Yes.
frame that makes all these shadows inside, and the architect wanted first the lattice represented a form of art that the enslaved Black people used in the South for architectural features and so forth, and they wanted to bring that into the whole design of the building. So everything about the building has great meaning, and I think the lattice work allows the light to come into the building to enlighten the history and the culture and the racism of the Black history. And it's just the most moving place I've ever been. We were there for the first day and we barely touched it. And we both left in tears. And when I was taking this picture, a Black person that worked in the museum came up to me and said, "You should not be taking a picture of this building." And so it is the only picture that I took inside the building.
Oh, wow.
But it's just an incredible space. It's like 4 floors. So of course we went back the second day, and I hope I get to go back there again because we still didn't see nearly everything there is to see. And the architecture is there were 2 architects. They received a design award prior to them even building the building.
Oh, wow.
And then the other thing about the building is that it is fully sustainable. It's the only Smithsonian on the mall that's fully sustainable, and that they have a whole website. I'm sure you could read about how it's sustainable. But it's just a thrilling project to witness, really.
Wow.
So thank you anyway.
Thank you,
I was
Anne.
going to put all that in the title, and I just couldn't figure it out. So I'm just going to say what the building has a kind of a long title anyway. So
I'm glad you got the shot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
no
cool.
kidding.
Congratulations. First place, Herb.
There he is. There's Lori
Very much.
driving the Jeep.
Where is Lori?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her red shirt.
She was right behind me, and in lieu of Lori's red jacket, there was a red Jeep in the other place.
Yeah.
This was actually Tony told me to go down and see the totem pole, and I had not known that it was such an iconic structure of Monument Valley. You know, you usually see the mittens and everything else. So I went on my way to see this, and late day with a bit of a sandstorm, got an image that I was pleased with the coloration as well as the composition. So thank you very much.
love the little Jeep in there.
Kind of an iconic travel image.
Yeah.
Get off your couch, people.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And our best image of the evening among many excellent photos,
God, so many.
Tamara.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
it.
wow.
good
She's
job,
had a
Tamara.
good evening tonight. I think she placed 3 images tonight.
Yeah.
Hat trick.
Yep.
Good
Yeah.
job.
Is she
That's
here?
Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
No.
gorgeous.
Is she in
Okay.
Africa?
She lives in Kenya, so it's probably some horrible time of night there now.
So as far as pandering to the judge goes, I pretty much always select an image that combines the grotesque and the sublime. And she
Good
has
to know.
Have to
because
remember that.
because they're both shortcuts to awe. It's either what's awesome or what's awful, right? And either way, it has charge, and the 2 of them combined is potent. So she did that here. And if you want to pander in future meetings, feel free to show me the grotesque and the sublime in inextricable tango.
Make a note. Write that down.
Got it.
Thank you for your excellent judging.
Yeah,
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Yes,
Inspiring.
thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
the
Were
best
we-
Very good.
ever.
Inspiring.
Were we inspired by the beauty and creativity we saw tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, wow, you guys really delivered, and there are so many juicy brains for the picking in this group. So thank you for giving me a lot of beauty to work with.
My dog is looking at me with those eyes.
Look out, Steve.
You haven't fed him?
Keep them
I gotta
fed.
go eat dinner. See you guys.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Hey.
Thank you,
everybody.
Becky.
Happy art making.
Much.
Good night.
Becky.
Good night. Thank you.